Hey everyone, Mo here, and before the video begins, I just want to let you guys know that my schedule has opened up for me to do coaching again. So if you're interested in private one-on-one coaching for me to help you, whether you're a newer player and you want to excel at the game very quickly and learn the fundamentals without developing any bad habits early, or if you're an experienced player who's already maybe platinum or diamond in your top 1%, but you need some help filling in the gap to get you to that 0.01%, to make you just some of the best, then hit me up on Discord and I can get you in some private one-on-one coaching lessons to help you polish up any skills you want to refine and help you learn all of the secrets to becoming a top player. That's it. I hope you enjoy the video. Hey everybody, Mo here, and in this video I'm bringing you 5 budget decks that can easily carry you to diamond, no matter what your skill level is. So these decks range all the way from aggro decks to mid-range decks to mainly just aggro decks, because they're really cheap. All of these decks have, I believe, very few epics. There's only one deck that actually has epics. The rest of them have 0 epics. And the only champions in these decks are champions that you should start the game with from when you log on. So these should be very easy to craft if you just played for a couple hours a day, just 1 hour a day. After 1 week of the vault, you can build any of these decks. So hopefully you find a deck here that you like, and if you don't plan on spending money in this game, but you still want to have a nice competitive deck for either ranked ladder or just so you don't, lose over and over again, I'll have a deck for you. So if you don't mind, before the video starts, go ahead and make sure to smash that subscribe button so that way you get notifications every time I post a video. I post videos daily here on YouTube. Go follow me on Twitch because I Twitch stream there just about every single day. And let's get into the video. So the first deck I have for you is just a Jinx. This is Jinx Draven discard, but no Dravens, and that's fine. We just replace Dravens with suit ups. Suit up is a very underrated, very good aggro card. You can draw suit up because you're playing several things that draw you cards. Your Zonai Urchin, your Sump Dredger, and your Rummage all draw you cards. So it's really easy to end up drawing a really cheap suit up later in the game, using it on something like, a cheap Precious Pet. It's now 1 mana 4/4 Fearsome unit, or your Flame Choppers is now a 4/4 Challenger unit. So this is pretty good. Obviously not as good as Draven, but it's pretty decent until you get your Dravens. So this is really nice. You play 1 Jinx here because I don't remember if you start with 1 or 2 Jinxes in the starter deck, but I know you start with at least 1 Jinx, so I just put 1 Jinx here. If you do start with 2 Jinx, you can go and take out this Nox and Fervor for the second Jinx. So after that, it's very simple aggro deck. You just play all your 1s and 2 drops and 3 drops and 4 drops, and then you burn them out later game with things like Nox and Fervor, Mystic Shot, Get Excited, and your suit ups. So this deck's very nice. I'm playing a deck like this right now in ranked ladder, and I'm doing really well. I just got to Diamond 1 with it. Obviously, the version with Dravens, but this deck is probably only like 6 cards off of the actual deck that I'm playing, and the 6 cards is just going to be like the 3 Dravens and 2 Jinxes, and then I just play a couple epics. So this deck's very powerful. Probably the second most powerful deck that I have here. And by the way, when I'm showing you these decks, I'm not showing them to you in any particular order. So I'm not showing you from the cheapest to the most expensive to the best to the worst or anything like that. There's just no particular order. So another good thing about this deck, I'll also highlight all the prices. So this deck says it's 9,000 shards, but of course that's with the Jinx, which you should have for free. If you take out the Jinx and the Mystic Shots you get for free, and then Get Excited you get for free on startup, this deck costs literally less than 2 champions. So you can either buy, 2 Karmas or any 2 champions, or you could build this entire deck. So this is really, I think this is probably the cheapest deck. Yeah, this is gonna be the cheapest deck once you take out all the cards that you have for free. You don't have to buy. This deck's the cheapest deck, and it's very good. The next deck we have is Bannerman. So funny enough, is this budget Bannerman deck is almost just literally Bannerman. The only difference is an actual Bannerman, you play a full playset of Garens. So you play 3 Garens and then 3 Fioras. So if you take out the 3 Fioras and 2 Garens, this deck is, so the 2 Sergeants right here are going to be Garens. And then after that, you take out 3 of these Screechers and they're Fioras. And then you literally just have Bannerman. That's like the best thing about this. Is if you ever wanted to play Bannerman mid-range, this is literally it. You just don't have the champions. So if you wanted to know what to take the champions out for, I play 2 Sergeants because the random 4 Demacia is really good. And I play the Screechers now because it's a pretty solid 5-drop, honestly. 5 mana 4/5 Challenger, plus it can get bigger, is really nice. from the Fury buff. On top of, you can, Bannerman it up and turn it into a 5-mana 5/6 challenger unit that just gets bigger, and it's just pretty strong. On top of that, you have your nice, Ranger's Resolve, single combats, rallies, riposte, your fight card here, and then back to back just to buff up your unit. So this is really nice. So again, once you get your champions, once you get the 2 Garens, you just take out the Vanguard Sergeants. Once you get your 3 Furies, you just take out the Screeching Dragons, and there you go. You have Bannerman. The next is going to be indoor. So, I'm sorry, I didn't go over the cost of this deck. So this deck is about 1,000 more shards than the Jinx deck. Of course, I don't know how many of these cards you get in your starter decks. I do know you get a Garen, so you just take out the 3,000 from the Garen, and it's about 1,000 more than the Jinx deck. So they're relatively the same price. Next is indoor. So indoor, again, very cheap deck. The only epics, I believe. Oh, indoor's not even an epic; it's a rare. Well, look at that. Yeah, so this deck usually plays Elise and Callista, and I know you start the game with some amount of Elise, but this particular version of the deck is very aggressive, and it's actually too aggressive to play Elise. Elise is just too slow. So if you ever get Callistas, then you can put Callistas in this deck super easily. Until then, all you really need is this. So if you look at a top indoor deck right now, so if you just go to my deck, go to deck collection, this is actually the indoor deck that I'm playing right now in tournaments. If you notice, the only champions I'm actually playing are Callista. So if you look at these 2 decks side by side, the only difference here is that in this deck, I'm playing a couple Doom Beast, and I'm not playing Shroud of Darkness. So there's literally just barely any difference here between the 2 decks. So the only thing is, once you get your Callista, you get a full actual just Masters tier indoor deck. So 7,000 shards is right on par with how much the Garen costs. It's even a little bit less here. So you play Shroud of Darkness and the budget version here to just buff up your indoor. So before you play your indoor, you do Shroud of Darkness, so that way it can't get hushed or it can't get, frostbite or anything like that. And this is, honestly, in my opinion, I think this is the best budget deck. So if you just wanted a deck that was the best budget deck, it's probably going to be this one. The next one is going to be another aggro deck. So it's Elusive aggro. This one, a friend of mine actually used this on a free-to-play account in EU, which means he spent 0 money on it, and he doesn't really play on it too much because it is an EU secondary account. He played this account, and within, I think it was 2 days, he got to Gold 2. So he played for 2 days and got to almost Platinum using this deck. So this is his exact copy. If you see here, it's 6,000, so it's cheaper than the indoor deck. It's the same price as the Jinx deck. It only costs you 2 champions. And it's very solid. I mean, this is just like 2 good expedition runs, and you can build this entire deck. Very solid here. You just play a bunch of elusives, a bunch of cheap elusive fearsome units, evasive creatures. Eventually you drop a Green Glade Duo. You buff them up with things like Brothers Bond, Transfusion on your Disciple to get you more damage, Demolitionist on your Disciple to get you more damage, and then Grenadier's Death Trigger. Best part about all of this is it combos well with Solitary Monk, which is a big elusive unit. So you can go play a Disciple, deal 1 damage to it with Demolitionist, you deal 3 damage to the enemy Nexus, and then you play Solitary Monk, you bounce both of those units to your hand, and then you get to replay it for another 3 damage to the enemy Nexus, and now you have a 3/3 elusive unit. So this deck super powerful and is really good if you're playing against a bunch of mid-range decks. If you want to beat the Bannerman decks or the Sejuani Gangplank decks, usually elusive decks are really good at that. So this is a very strong, really good elusive deck that my friend almost took to Platinum within 2 days of playing it. And it's completely free to play. I think he said he played for a week and was able to get this entire deck. So very strong. And the last deck we have here is actually going to be Warmothers. So this is going to be the most expensive deck because it plays a bunch of epics. So if you want a nice control deck, so I wanted to put one of each deck type in here. That's why this one is in here, even though it's a little bit more expensive. It's only costs 14,000 because I know you start with at least 1 Tryndamere in a starter deck. So the reason I put this more expensive deck where it's literally like the cost of 3 of these decks, is I wanted to make sure that if you're a control player, if you're coming over from Magic the Gathering and you like playing blue control, or if you're coming over from Hearthstone and you like to play some type of, Warlock or Mage control, and you're looking for a control deck, here you go. This is a nice control deck for you to play. So it plays a bunch of epics, like I said. So you play 3 Warmothers, and this is basically, it's the name of the deck. This is how you want to do it, is you want to ramp with things like Warding Stones and Catalyst of the Aeons. until you can play your Warmothers a couple turns early. Once you play Warmothers, then you're just slamming them down with really big units. I was going to take out some of the epics, like for instance, Warmothers is obviously needed, so you needed to play at least 3 epics. The other 4 epics, one's a Ruination, and originally this deck plays like 2 to 3 Ruinations, but I cut it down to 1 to try and save on the shards. You really need it in case your opponent does like flood the board with a bunch of big mid-range stuff and you can punish people that overextend really hard. But if you really can't afford it, you can put in a second Atrocity or a second the box, because the box can almost be a Ruination, but it's obviously not as good. And then for the second set of epics is Tarkos the Tribeless. This card is just super underrated and it's probably one of the best cards in this deck. You can obviously replace this with any like big beefy 5-drop that you find. However, the other 5-drop that people usually replace it with is Avros and Hearthguard, which buffs all your units in your deck. And that card's also an epic, so I was going to try and replace it there, but it doesn't make a sense to replace one epic with another epic if you're just doing it solely for cost purpose. So if you can find an uncommon or a rare 5-drop that you would like, that's pretty big and beefy, that's good. The key with Warmothers, though, is to not put too many small or like non-value units in. So ideally, that's why you want to keep this as a 5-coster, because of the curve with if you play a mana ramp on turn 3, the turn 4 you can play a nice really big 5-coster. That's why you play Tarkos, because you get a turn 4 5/8, which is really, really hard for mid-range decks to get around and really, really hard for control decks to deal with. So that's the idea behind that. If you really don't have this, like I said, just replace it with any unit, really, any big unit, it'll do. So this is the control deck. It is going to be the most expensive deck, but I wanted to make sure I had one of each type. So that's going to be it. Those are the 5 budget decks that can easily carry you to Masters. I mean, especially this Endure deck. Like I said, I'm literally playing almost an exact copy of this Endure deck right now in high diamond, trying to get to Masters with it, and it's doing really good. So any of these decks can easily carry you to diamond, if not to Masters. By the time you get to diamond, I'm sure you'd acquire enough shards to finish it out by buying the last, 3 to 6 champions that it needs. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and again, make sure to hit the subscribe button so that way you get notifications every time I post a video. Join the Discord for more notifications, and if you have any questions, you can ask me there, and I'll see you guys in the next video.